Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Her Talk Show. My name is Sabrina Victoria. I am here with Kristy, and we are going to be talking all about confidence. So get comfortable as we explore the triumphs and challenges faced by women worldwide by offering insights and inspiration to fuel your personal and professional growth. Let's jump right in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
All right, if you are listening live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love in the comments. Every single day, we are delving deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. And we have interviewed over 600 women on this stage. We are adding another one to the list today, Kristy. She is a life and business coach, media contributor, and personality and keynote speaker. She empowers business owners and leaders to shift from working in the business to working on the business. I freaking love that. As a life coach, she hones in on elevating the mindset, skill sets, and habits of every person she collaborates with. She identifies her clients' zone of genius alignment and assists them designing a life that is collaborated to allow them to live to their fullest. So excited to have you, lady. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Yes, and you are calling in from the beautiful state. Look at this view of the Carolinas.
It's a little foggy today, but still beautiful. Still better than Wisconsin and Ohio, where I started out.
Absolutely. I'm going to say absolutely. I feel like to step out onto a balcony with that view would be most people's dream.
Oh, thank you for saying so.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're here today talking about confidence. I think this is such an amazing subject because so many of us are told to kind of step into this even if it doesn't feel right. Fake it till you make it type of deal. And then there's those of us that are actually stepping toward confidence. And then there's some of us that have none. We're just lost in this world of imposter syndrome. So first of all, why confidence? Why are we bringing confidence to the table today? Why is it so important?
Well, the way that my mind works is I always look for the root and the foundation. And if there's things that you can build on foundationally, then we can get further and we can get faster and we can get higher. But if you don't have confidence, then there's really not a whole lot to build upon from my opinion. And what I find in life is that if it's not really complex, like my formula for building confidence is really simple, but I feel like in general, and what I have to say, I wouldn't say is anything, it's not necessarily anything new. I don't believe there's a lot of new information. It's just that people say it differently and you're ready to hear it at different times in your life. But the methodology is very simple. And so I think that people oftentimes are looking for something big and grandiose or complex, but it's really the simple things that build confidence over time.
Absolutely. Agree. Do you feel, I know you've been in this arena for a while, when you look at men and women, is there a drastic difference? Or is it because maybe I'm in the world of women that I feel like women have so many more problems with confidence? Is this actually an issue, like a human issue, or is this a woman issue?
Well, men just don't talk about things, and society has not allowed them to talk about things and to be vulnerable, right? So, vulnerability is more of the feminine side, and if you believe in masculine, feminine energy, we all have a mix, whether you're man or woman. But in general, women connect through vulnerabilities, and that's what I'd like to get vulnerable with you here today, and that's how I connect with my audience is by telling the raw, real stories that most people don't want anybody to hear. I just find that women are more open to talk about those things. Men in general have to put on this brave face and make it seem like they have everything together.
Agree, 100%. When you're talking about stories,
Yeah.
vulnerable stories, why is it so important to be sharing these stories? Are you talking about like with our best friends, or like should we be on stage telling our stories?
I think we should be on stage telling our stories. I mean, I grew up like, I just recently launched a podcast, but if you follow me on social media, and I think I could do a better job, to be honest. And here's me being vulnerable. Like, I feel like, I put the content out there that people need to hear, but I probably need to do a better job of showing them some of the ugly parts too. I try to do that as often as I can. But, there's two reasons why you tell stories. Well, there's two ways to influence people. You put them through an experience, one, and two, you can tell stories. Because when you tell stories, people will see parts of themselves in your story. And growing up in a one-stop light town, my mission for having this voice that I have now is to show people, give them the information and the perspective that I wish that I had. It took me a little while
Hmm.
to figure it all out. And I believe now social media is a great way to go fast in life, but it's also a highlight reel. And I think it's messing with a lot of people's brains because all you see is the really good stuff. But we should all, in my opinion, we should all be telling. I just got a call today to do a keynote at a Chamber of Commerce women's luncheon, and she said, I said, "How did you find me?" And she said, she saw me on TV on the Today Show, and she said, "Our ladies need to hear real stories." And I said, "Okay,
Hmm.
I can bring that. I can bring that."
Absolutely. Can you share a story with us?
Yeah. And what topic?
Ooh, let's share a story of let's go relationships.
Okay. So here's a vulnerable story that I haven't told on any media platform ever. And I told the guy that I'm dating now, his name's Dan. We're in a relationship, and I told him at some point I have to tell this story. But so when I so I'm a pretty, put together person, especially under stress. And this is the first person that I had been excited about in a really long time, like a really long time. And I've been divorced for 9 years, and I've done a lot of work. Like my marriage ended because my ex-husband had a sexual addiction that started in childhood. He was exposed to some things. So it wasn't my fault when I found out about things and decided to end the marriage. But I also asked myself, was I a good wife? And the
Mm.
answer I came back with is there's some room for improvement. And I started doing the work, started doing the relationship work and figuring out, what does a good wife look like? I realized the mix of masculine, feminine energy and going into the softness when I need to, and letting I've done all this work, I've practiced, and I'm like, this year is my year. I am so ready, Sabrina. Um, we had a week build up before I met him, and it just on both sides, you can just see how excited we were getting. And I could not wait to meet this man. I pulled into his community, and I told the gate attendant, what I don't know what the right word is for what he does, but I said, I'm here to see so and so. And he said, okay. And he goes to let me in, and the arms open. I don't know what happened. I think I blacked out because the arm, I think, came back down, and that's when I decided to drive. I drove right through the gate. Like the arm thing, I drove right through it. And I was like, I've never in my life done anything even close to this. And now I do it. Like, I'm ready. This is not the time to do this. And so I drive up and I park my car, and I drive over to this gate attendant, and I was like, I need to, I'm really sorry about that. I need to take care of that. And he looks at the list and he goes, "Oh, you're here to see Mr. Donovan." He goes, "It's fine. I'll just call Mr. Donovan." And I'm like, that's exactly what we don't want to do today. Is there, I haven't even met the man in person, and I just blew through the gate, and I'm like, oh my, I cannot even believe this is happening. And so I go over and I'm talking to him, and now I can see there's cameras everywhere. I can see my car where I parked. I can see where I was. I can see myself right now. And I'm looking at this guy who I've totally freaked out because I brought this type of energy. And I have all these credit cards, and I'm like, "Do you want the red one? Do you want the blue one?" I'm like, "Here's 100, like whatever I need to do. Could you please not call Mr. Donovan and tell him?" So I had to show up. He opened the door, and I was like, did they call him already? Did they, I had to make sure, first of all, that I didn't hit anything else on the way to his house, because I was like, I don't know what just happened. It could happen again. And the interesting thing is I had worked so hard on whatever I was dealing with, kind of coming from like this really stressed corporate world, like shutting all that off and being able to show up in my feminine flow. And he's like, I really was 1% present for the first 3 hours because I'm thinking about that moment, and he never felt any of it. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's a funny story now.
When did you finally tell him?
Oh, I had to tell him right away. So it was like I
Okay.
walked in and I told him because I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're gonna like, did they call him already?" And so he kind of laughed, and the way he laughed made me laugh too. But I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, are we, is this even going to continue?" And I will tell you because I'm a girl of my pride, like my ego is still there, and she showed herself that day. And I thought, if I didn't like this guy, I would have just done a U-turn and left. Like, I flew through the gate. I like it fell off, which I think they just pop off, but maybe that's the story I told myself.
I love it. I'd love to talk for a moment about this, what you're talking about, where you weren't really yourself for the first 3 hours, because I think so many of us can relate to that in different ways. How did you pull yourself? Because some people will sit in that
Yeah.
for a full day, for a couple of days, for a week, depending, right?
Yeah.
Not the exact scenario, but this scenario where we're just embarrassed and we'll mull it over and we'll talk about it and we'll massage it and we'll call our mom and our two
Yeah.
best friends and tell the neighbor. What is the work that you have personally done? Maybe a tip or two that has gotten you to the point where you showed up, right? You said that your old you may not have even showed up. You might have just done a U-turn, but then you were able to subside yourself and really slip into your feminine side, as we were talking
Yeah.
about, within a couple of hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the beautiful part was that, outwardly, uh I still presented in the same way. So I think first and foremost, we're a little harder on ourselves. Like, the other day I went in and recorded 3 episodes for the Today Show, and I have to have oral surgery, and my mouth was hurting me, and I was like, that those went terrible. And then I went back and watched them. I'm like, they were actually really good. So, I think that I slipped into it faster on the outward side. It was just this little twinge that still was hanging around. But I'm talking years of work. And, I think that it's self-awareness is so important, and the layers that the further you go in life, the more you become aware of what continues to come up. And I was mentioning to you before, wherever you go, you take you with you. And so I just interviewed Bradley on my podcast, and he talked about, like, step number 1 in life and getting everything you want is you have to forgive yourself. And you
Mm.
have to live outside of, you have to get past, I mean, even like 5 minutes ago, whatever happened 5 minutes ago, if I need to make amends, I'm going to, but now I have to focus on the present and move towards the future. So I think it's just, I think first and foremost, you have to recognize that you're doing it. Is worry your go-to? I grew up in a worry home. So worry is definitely my go-to. But there's nothing I can do if I live in that space. In fact, it's more of a detriment. So once I see it, now I can't unsee it. And now it's like, okay, well, what choices do I have? I can leave, or I can just try to breathe through this and continue to focus. And so what happened was, and this is just conditioning, is I would get into the moment, and then it'd come back in. And when I would feel it come back in, then I'd have to focus on something else. I'd have to focus on the
Totally.
grace he gave me, the laugh, the story that we're going to be able to tell years down the road, whatever it may be. So I don't think it's like, I think that that's kind of the one of the secrets in life too, is this stuff isn't 100% proof. It's not a formula that's going to make it go away.
Totally.
But as long as you commit to it and go, okay, I found my way back here again. Let me get back out of it. Eventually, those moments become smaller and smaller.
Yeah. For those, by the way, we have a ton of people watching live. I just want to say hello to
Yay!
those watching live. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us. If you are watching on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love in the comments. When you, Kristy, when you say worrying doesn't do anything for you, can you break that down a little bit for those worry warts out there who just love to worry?
Yeah.
What do you
Uh,
mean it doesn't do anything for you? Because and for those who love to worry, or it's just part of their identity, it's doing a lot for them, they think.
Yeah, you think that it's an emotional home, and Tony Robbins talks about that a lot, is like, where do you go no matter what? And so worry was an emotional home that for whatever reason I made some comfort attachment to it. And I noticed as I kind of broke away from when I left home at 17 to go to college, that if I didn't have anything to worry about, it almost felt uncomfortable. And this is when you are worrying about things that you can't do anything about. This is where you start to see things like fibromyalgia, and chronic fatigue and things like that manifest in the body. So it's the disease of insufficiency and the disease of not being able to get out of your situation. So what I would encourage people to do is to focus on what can I do, right? So this
Mhm.
situation happened, or this fear is here, or whatever it may be. But if you don't focus your attention on something positive and what you can do right now, it is going to prevent you from moving forward. And this happens also, like when you're getting ready to step into your greatness, you will probably find yourself worrying a lot too. There's a book, The Big Leap, that talks a lot about when you're starting to reach your upper limit, you may find yourself in this space of worry too. And that worry and that emotional home is trying to pull you back into comfort. So now I've kind of reframed worry and I go, okay, well, when I see her rear her ugly head, I'm like, whoa, I'm onto something. I'm onto something big. And either I pull myself back down and I stay in this space, or I got to blow right through it. And it sucks, but it's either I tamp down the thermostat or I'm going to blow right through it, and that worry's going to go away.
Yeah, I was just having that conversation with a client a couple days ago as far as the anxiety, just a constant, just lull of anxiety. And exactly what you're saying is what I was explaining to her, where, she's right on the cusp, she's right on the edge of
Yeah.
jumping,
Yeah.
and her body is just trying to pull her back in at any means possible to get her to go back down into the valley
Yep.
versus, climbing that mountain and jumping off into another realm, and how our body automatically does that. It's not that you have to be thinking about it at that
Mm.
exact moment. It can just feel the shift.
Yeah, and sickness can send in and do the same thing too. So if you're close to making that leap, and then all of a sudden you get a cold or you get a major illness, or like, that is another symptom. But you can use it as a sign and be like, oh, this isn't a cold. This is just my limiting beliefs trying to pull me back down into. Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
No kidding. I believe that.
Yeah. 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 Usually when I tell people that, like, they can go, they're like, oh, that's why that happened to me in my life at that time. And it could be something like major, or it could be, just like, oh, I got the sniffles, but manifest very similar. Yep.
Wow. You know what this just brings me to right away, which could or couldn't, right? Is in March of 2020, we all made a huge shift. I had to make a huge shift in my business. Um, and right when I was getting into online business, what I do now, which I hadn't done previously, everything I was doing was in person previously. I'm just walking down the road and tripped and broke my leg. All three of my bones just snapped in half. And I'm like super healthy. I take all my vitamins. I work out all the time. Like, I'm not a person that trips.
Yeah.
And I'm like walking, Kristy. I'm just walking.
Yep.
Nothing crazy. Yeah, wow, that's interesting. But yeah, there was a lot of fear.
Yep.
There was a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of money lack, like
Yes.
uncertainty,
Yes. Yes.
and whether or
But
not I should
you're
go back.
probably getting ready to step into a zone of genius that you didn't even
Yeah.
know was there. Yeah. Your
Yeah.
greatness.
Yeah, because really mulling over whether or not I should go back, just back to a job, like, right, just back into corporate versus
Yeah.
working on my own. Because I'm just like, I don't freaking know how I'm going to do this shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
Celeste, yeah, worry is so overwhelming. I think mindset tips are very helpful in moving forward.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
100%. 100%. When you're talking about teaching confidence and helping people really envision their dream,
Hmm.
what does that look like? Like, how does somebody teach confidence?
Yeah. Yeah, because you kind of think like, oh, is this something that you're born with or you're not born with? Like, could I get more confidence? Can I not get more confidence? So thank you for asking that question that way. The good news is you can build more confidence at any stage in your life when it's just a decision. Like most things, you just have to decide that you're going to do it. And again, most of the stuff that I teach, I try to teach it in a way that you can't forget it and that it makes complete sense. So is there, I ask often, when do you feel the most confident? What people are you hanging around? What did you do that day? What did you do that week? Did you get good sleep? Were you eating good food? There are clues all around you. So, for me to feel my most confident, I need to work out and I need to feel good about my body. Now, when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you do good. And that elevates your confidence too. And it doesn't mean whatever that means for you is what it means for you. It doesn't mean you have to go buy, $1,000 blazer. It could be a $5 Amazon shirt. If you feel great in it, you need to know what that is. If it's you do your makeup, you do your hair, so for me, I need to work out. I need to eat healthy. I need to get good sleep on a regular basis. I need to have positive relationships in my life. I need to be around people that see my gifts because that elevates me. And I need to have fun. I need to have fun. I don't like to be cold, so like that's gonna just make me in a bad mood and bring my vibration down. That's why I moved from the Midwest to Charlotte. And so step number one is going like, okay, when do I feel my most confident? And how can I structure an environment where I feel more of that every day? So, are there people that you talk to on a regular basis that you feel really good? Now, on the flip side, what things are you doing that make you feel not confident? Are you eating a bunch of junk food? Do your pants not fit good? Did you not take time to, do your laundry and figure out what you're going to wear? Are you around people that don't see your gifts, that don't believe in what you're doing? The negative Nellies, the people that like to worry? There's a way for us to structure our everyday so that we are showing up in the highest vibration possible. So that's number one. Now that may sound easier than it really is, because now we have to potentially back away from people that don't make us feel good. And oftentimes for that, it's a matter of just giving people the words, right? So how do I start to not share so much with certain people? How do I start to not, decline that offer to go to the birthday party? And oftentimes I'll just give them the words of how do you get out of that? Because nobody wants to hurt anybody else. But when you start to see that I feel the best in this environment, now it's really a more of a matter of like either you stay in that environment and you live. See, a lot of people wait for something catastrophic to happen, but why can't we feel great, as great as we possibly can in every moment, right? And a lot of this confidence stuff goes, across. So why don't we feel amazing as often as we possibly can? So once you start to see that it's almost like them or me, if I say yes to this, if I let you in my life, if I stay in that environment, if I, stop working out, if my new boyfriend likes to eat pizza and I don't, and he's okay with me being 10 pounds heavier, but I'm making this up, by the way. Like, no, I got to do whatever it is for me. So you got to structure that environment. Um, and and once you see that, then that's going to roll over in everything in life. Because if you can stay in that high vibration, now you're going to start to bring things towards you. And you may think it's confidence, but it's just that you're living in your peak state. You may also need to come up on a skill set. So there may be something that you're like, okay, I want to be a great public speaker, but I don't know how to public speak. Well, you can't just design your environment and all of a sudden you're a great public speaker. That's something that you need to practice the skill set. You're a great communicator. I've had a lot of experience communicating too, but you know how many hours, probably days, that I stood in front of the mirror giving my sales presentations and having now I can do it a lot easier, but there's a lot of practice that goes into that. So perhaps, I think having an honest conversation with yourself of going, all right, what do I need to get better on? Well, schedule the time and figure out what resources you need. Modeling is a great behavior. Who has what you want? Who knows how to do what you want to do? Model them, ask them to be a mentor or something. And if you had no inhibitions at all, if nothing was holding you back, if you looked at somebody that had the most confidence, and if you said, if I could just like approach this like her or be like her, I would do what? That's how you get your vision, you know? And you can't. There's nothing she has that you don't have. She was you at some point in her life. But you make this choice of either you blow through it or there's going to be moments that are uncomfortable. But if you have community, and that's what I love, what you've built, like having community is really the secret that like holds this whole thing together. Because if everybody else is showing up and blowing through their fears and doing things when they don't feel the most confident, but you're like, well, gosh, this whole world is doing it, you start to borrow that, and that starts to seep into you too. So the only thing that's holding us back is us. But if you can get around all the other people that are doing it, then that's going to rise you up too. And you'll get out of your head a lot faster.
Yeah. I'd love to talk a little bit about, you mentioned, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what came to me was, I love you just the way you are. Oh, you were talking about your spouse doesn't mind you being 10 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
You're not down with that. The bad eating habits. This is something that I think so many individuals deal with, right? We go into a relationship, we're looking our best.
Yeah.
And then a year later, they gained weight and they say, oh, it's because they're happy. Oh, it's because, whatever it is. Not always happy though.
Not always happy.
Yeah, a lot of times it is this whole, like, they don't mind you 10 pounds heavier. I love you just the way you are. It's your insides, not your outsides. How does somebody manage that? How does a woman manage setting boundaries around what kind of foods she's appreciating eating, or waking up earlier and having those conversations around, this is non-negotiable. Me leaving the bed at 6 a.m. to go work out instead of sleeping in with you is a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
How do we manage that?
Yeah. Well, and I will say that, that was an example I use because I see it all the time. It's not present in my relationship because for me, it is the foundation of who I am. And so, as a woman, you have to recognize what you need to be the very best version of yourself. And not be afraid to ask it. And so yesterday I led a corporate training for, I think there was 30 women, 30 leaders, and one was in tears because I said the first column, I was showing them how I do my calendar. I said the first column in my formula is me. What do I need to be me? And all these women are like, oh, I need to do this for my daughter and my this. And I'm like, no, what do you need for you? At some point, you have to understand that when you are not whole, you are not serving that relationship in the best way possible. You're not serving your children the best way possible. And so, and if they're not okay with it, they're just going to not have to be okay with it. That's when you go find your community, like your community.
Yeah.
And find people when you're in those moments and you're like, gosh, this is really uncomfortable. He wants me to stay in bed, or he's fine with me being 10 pounds over. If he wants you to be heavier, that like, there's an issue there. Like, I don't know if he wants to keep you in a place where your confidence is lower, or if he just loves you the way that maybe he just loves you anyway. And that's a beautiful thing if he just loves you anyway. The most important thing though, is you have to love you. And so what is it that you need in order to love yourself? And this goes for weight, this goes for schedule, this goes for eating, this goes for how his mother talks to you, how his children talk to you, whatever it may be. It's okay to have boundaries and standards and to talk about it.
Absolutely.
And he should too. He should be able to, voice what he wants as well.
Yeah. How have you in your world really aligned yourself with, I guess, what were the steps? Like, what was the 1, 2, 3 steps that you have taken, the pivots that you've taken to set your own boundaries?
Yeah, I believe in framing, reframing, pre-framing. And so I think that if you can get ahead of things, I think it's really it's easier oftentimes for people if you can express what's really important to you versus watching things disrespect you and then try to find a way to bring them up. So for me, for setting boundaries, like, first and foremost in life, there's people that are just going to cross my boundaries because we have mismatching core values. And, I'm 43 now, but like I heard this word in my 20s and in my early 30s. And, it didn't really resonate until I got it in a couple bad situations in corporate America or with business partners where I'm like, why is this so hard for me? Well, it's because she's violating my core values any way we slice it. So for me, being able to be in touch with my intuition and my spirituality and really hone in on that, you know, I have to feel comfortable and feel somewhat safe. And so if I can't do that, then I'm not going to be in your presence. Appreciation, respect, integrity, truth, these are all parts of my core values. So if you don't know what your core values are, you need to do that exercise and figure out what your core values are and what people would do in order to violate them. You don't have to have similar core values, but they just can't be contradictory to the point where they're violating them. And I think that's a great conversation to ask people, and whether it's a friendship or a relationship, I think that, that's a foundational starting point. And you can always ask people like, what's important to you? What's important to you in a friendship? What's important to you in a relationship? So here's just like a silly thing that I talked about on the Today Show, but like the amount of comments and feedback, I didn't realize how much of a real thing it was for people. I get overstimulated with all the back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so like if my girlfriends, they put me in a group text and there's like 30 back and forth, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm probably going to jump in there one time and comment one time. But then I would carry this burden of guilt, like, oh my gosh, they don't think I like them, and they don't, I didn't comment on this. And then finally, when I got ahead of it, well, I didn't get ahead of it, but I proactively put a message out there. I left a voice so that they could hear my voice, and I said, listen, I would have said, Sabrina, listen. I just want you to know that I love and respect and appreciate you. And I love this, just recognize that for me, being on my phone all the time and seeing all these messages, like it just drains my battery in general. And so it's not, I don't want you to think that I don't like it. I love that you have me in the group, but and so like now I don't feel bad about it when they see that. And now I know that they know how much I love them. I would rather meet for coffee and catch up than do that stuff. It drains my battery too fast.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's so important to do, not only in our relationships, but also our friendships. And I love how you're talking about getting ahead of it.
Yeah.
Because intuitively, I think we all kind of know where things could veer off.
Yeah.
And, getting ahead of the situation like you're talking about just alleviates all of that extra just back and forth conversations that we're having with ourselves. Made to feel bad, but they're not making us feel bad. We just feel bad. We don't even know if we're supposed to be feeling bad. But catching it before that just saves so much time. I mean, look at how much time you're saving, not worrying about that.
Well, and that's such a great point. And the burden that you end up carrying, I just feel like the more, it's like knowing that you have to do that big thing and you haven't done it yet and the deadline's approaching, it starts to get heavy. So if you're walking around and you have a lot of those things stacking up, there's a heaviness that, to me, I feel like energy is everything. And I feel like the more the heaviness, the less the vibration. And if you can live in a high vibe state of happiness and joy and fun and playfulness, then that's where the magic is. And all that stuff, that conversations I should have, or, oh gosh, I hope they don't feel this way. Like, no, I just want to clear it. They may receive it, they may not receive it, but at least I've done, most people, if they don't receive it, they probably don't belong in my life because my intentions are true and they're good. I had one person one time, I got sick at their child's birthday party, like really sick. And it made me realize, it knocked me down for a month, and it made me realize like my immune system is not conditioned to be around a bunch of 2-year-olds. And I love your children and I want to see them and I want to send them a gift. I just don't know if I can, I don't think I should probably go to like the communal, petri dish birthday party. And she was like beyond offended. And I was like, wow, that's your stuff, not mine, because I was completely honest. I didn't say petri dish birthday party, but that's just, me trying to be funny right now. But she didn't receive it. And it was just kind of like I could feel this on the other side of the, of the text message. And then it was, short and whatever. And I was like, wow, you understand I was knocked down for 30 days.
Wow.
Like, come on, man. All right. That's on you. That's on you. But I'm still going to go follow, what I need to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This has been great. I feel like we could just keep talking. And really love that you mentioned core values. I'm going to repeat that one more time, which you said, if you don't know what your core values are, so important in just adding to that confidence, right? When you know exactly who you are and you can explain that, to somebody, that in itself just raises our confidence.
Yeah.
Kristy, for those watching live or on the replay who are resonating with you, who are really just appreciating you and everything that you're sharing, where can they find you? Where do you hang out on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on all the platforms. My name shows up the way that you see underneath here. It's Kristy Kuhl. It's Kristy_Kuhl on Instagram, Kristy Kuhl on Facebook and LinkedIn. I do a free coaching newsletter every Thursday, and you can subscribe to that at KristyKuhl.com. And I also recently launched a podcast, which we got to get you on there. Keep Rising with Kristy Kuhl. You can find that on all platforms.
Yes. I really I saw something on your website that said, like you're closer than you think you are.
Yeah.
Something like that. Like so true. So often we're like running, we're rising, and then we're just like, oh, this is taking too long. It kind of reminded me of the whole like gold thing where they're digging for the gold and then they're just over it.
Yeah.
And the next guy comes in, he just hits it a couple times and then there's the gold. So true though. I love
I
it.
feel like that's what I see both in my personal and one-on-one life coaching and business coaching is I'm never the idea person, but I can dial it and I'm like, oh my gosh, all we got to do is this and this and you're there. And whether it's me or somebody else that helps you, I think again, just getting in the right groups and finding the hope and the motivation to keep going. Like we are all so much closer than we think we are. So keep going. Yeah. Keep going. Keep rising.
Yeah. For those of you listening on audio, Kristy Kuhl with a K, KRISTYKUHL.com. It is in a clickable link in the description wherever you're watching us at. If you wanted to get close to her, grab onto her social media. She does have, what is it, a form, a link? How do they fill out that?
To subscribe to the newsletter, yeah, you can find it in my link tree and my bios on social media, or if you go to my website, then you can subscribe. Scroll all the way to the bottom, and you can subscribe to the newsletter by putting your email address in there.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you so much. Well, this has been absolutely fabulous. I so appreciate you being here, dropping some goodness. I took a whole huge page of notes that I am so excited about. Closing thoughts, Kristy, as we close up here.
I just want people to give themselves grace for whatever happened yesterday, to know that today is a new day, tomorrow is a new day, and to not be afraid to design the life that works for them. And if that means you have to have a difficult conversation, or you have to set a boundary, or you just have to ignore people and go down the path that you want to because it's the right one. I want this to be, let Sabrina and I be your permission slip today to step into whatever it is that you want to do in this season of life. We go through seasons, and what I find is sometimes we make commitments to ourselves and to others, and we feel like we have to live that commitment forever. But we grow, and we change, and we develop. So ask yourself this question: what do I want for this season of my life? And do not be afraid. Not everybody's going to want to watch you step into that. You may have to say goodbye to some people. They may think you may leave them because you're rising up, but that this could all end tomorrow. And what regret would you have? Go for it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. This is an absolute delight. What a way to close this up. I love that. What do you want for this season? Yeah, we don't have to feel that whole commitment thing of like for the rest of my life. What do you want for this season? That feels so light. Thank you so much, Kristy, for all of the goodness. This brings us to an end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. Thank you for inspiring us. For those of you who have made it all the way to the end, thank you so much. Remember to follow, like, and share. Once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to have conversations just like this one to help you every step of the way. Until next